What's good, everybody? Welcome to the Cafe Entree podcast, where we talk about everything regarding movies and food, two things that we all love. So, I am your host, Cafe Entree, and we about to get into it because we got some really good news to talk about on the podcast. But before we get started, if you guys are a fan of my podcast, then go subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast channels like Amazon, Spotify. These are just to name a few, so we are on there. Also, don't forget to check out the YouTube channel, Cafe Entree. So let's get into it. After months and months and months of picketing and negotiating and all these things with the Hollywood strike, they have reached an agreement, which means that the strike could come to an end. Now, I know some of y'all going, what you mean they reached the agreement, but the strike could come to an end? Let me just break it down to you what I'm talking about, and we're going to come back and get into it. So, according to USA, it says Hollywood screen actors and studios reached tentative agreement to end prolonged strike. Hollywood screenwriters and studios have reached a tentative agreement to end the writer's strike that has brought the TV and movie industry to a standstill for nearly 5 months. The Writers Guild of America announced that the deal late Sunday with the Alliance of Motion Pictures and Television Producers, the group that represents studios, streaming services, and producers in negotiations. The WGA and AMPTP have reached a tentative agreement. The Writers Guild West posted on its official X social media account on Sunday. This was made possibly by the enduring solidarity of the WGA members and extraordinary support of our union siblings who stood with us for over 146 days. The 3-year contract agreement must be approved by the Guide's board and members before the strike officially ends. There is still no deal between Hollywood actors and the studios, as the 160,000 member SAG-AFTRA have been on strike since July. SAG-AFTRA congratulated the WGA in a statement posted on Sunday. We look forward to reviewing the terms of the WGA and AMPT's tentative agreement. The Actors Union statement said, and we will remain ready to resume our own negotiations with the AMPTP as soon as they prepare to engage on our proposals in a meaningful way. So, like I said, this is just a tentative agreement for the time being. So, which means is that everybody in the union, even with the AMPTP, have to agree upon it. So the union has to send it back to their people and send it back to the members and say, hey, this is what they're offering, blah, 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 blah. What's your thoughts about it? Same thing with the AMPTP. They got to send it back to their people and say, hey, this is what they're offering, blah, 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 blah. So it has to be agreed on both sides. And then once it's agreed upon both sides, then everything can kind of go back to normal and go back to getting things rolling again. As far as with TV shows, as far as with writers coming in, writing shows and things. But, like I said, both sides have to agree upon it. And just because the writers have got a potential deal worked out between them, the actors still haven't got a deal worked out with their side either. So their thing is like, hey, it's great that the writers got their deal. Now let's get our deal going, because if the writers go back to work and then the actors ain't going back to work, you still got a problem. Because the writers, they can write TV shows and movies all day long, but if you ain't got no actors in there, how's it going to work? And I'm just glad that they came to some sort of agreement so far, because this had been going on for months and months and months and months and months. It was getting very nasty. It was once again this unknown studio executive that made the statement about we're going to starve them out and all this other type of stuff. And then on the unions end, they were saying how terrible the studios were. So it was a lot of mudslinging going back and forth. But that's what happens when you have a strike. because even though a lot of these big companies they can talk about a strike like we don't care and this and this and this, they do care because whenever you have a strike, it affects both sides, but mainly it affects the companies. The companies who don't want to pay the workers, who want to try to be cheap, it affects them more than the regular workers because if you don't have those people working for those companies are not going to make money. And when those companies don't make money, they got a problem because now they got shareholders, they've got CEOs, they got all these investors, they got all these people who have invested and own shares of the company that's looking at them like, okay, what are y'all doing? This shit is going on long enough. Y'all need to come up with some sort of deal and get this out the way because, you know, we're about making money. And we didn't invest money in y'all company to keep having these problems and having things happening to where we're not seeing a return on our money. And then the same thing on the side with the unions. The unions have supporters and people that's bagging them. That's like, hey, you know what? You know, we're supporting you guys on this, but man, you got to come up with something. You got to get a deal done. You got to get this out the way because we spent long periods of times on this, and we got to get this done so we can move on. So that's what I believe will happen with both sides. That it was their supporters and their allies was putting pressure on them to say, you know what, let's get this done and get this out the way because we spent way too much time on this. So I'm glad that they got a tentative agreement done so far. Hopefully they can get it all signed, sealed, and delivered on both sides with the writers and the actors so that everything can get moving back again and that we can start to watch our favorite TV shows and films and, you know, et cetera, et cetera. So let's keep our fingers crossed and hope that it's going to happen. But I don't see why this wouldn't happen. This is just my opinion. I don't see why this would not happen because it's affecting a lot of people, not just the writers and the actors, but also businesses because, you know, when they film in movies in these different states and stuff, you know, it's finances being made over there, the restaurants, all these other places that benefit from films being made have been losing money. So, like I said, let's just hope that they can come up with that both sides can agree to this deal and get everything back going. But you guys tell me how you feel about this. They have come to a tentative agreement with the writers, and they're putting the things in motion to get this deal signed and sealed, so they can move on, and hopefully that the actors can get their deal signed, sealed, and delivered, so we can move on. But y'all tell me how y'all feel about this. You know, what's your thoughts about it? Because I want to hear from you guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Next, moving on. The Expendables 4. Hmm. The Expendables 4. How can I say this? The Expendables 4, my thoughts about this is one word, bold letters. Terrible. Okay? Terrible. Now, I know some of y'all going, man, well, no, no, no. Let me just give you my reasons why. See, one thing what I do when I talk about things, I'm not just gonna give you my opinion, just be throwing out nasty statements and all that type of stuff. I'm gonna give you my reasons why. But before I give you my reasons, let's just look at what the Expendables are. The Expendables is an action movie franchise that's got all the old action heroes coming together, you know, basically kicking ass and taking names. So when you go see these type of movies, you're not going there thinking like it's gonna be this really great deep storyline, all this stuff. No, it's an action movie. And with a lot of action movies, the storyline is predictable. You know, it's a predictable storyline, and that's why they have the bullets and the bodies and the shoot 'em up bang bang to cover the fact that it's not this great storyline. Now the first three Expendables movies, the first one was really good, second one was good, third one was all right, no problem with those. But this one, you can just tell what they did with this movie was that they really didn't take their time to write a decent story. It just seemed like they just put something together and just put it out there to say, okay, people love the Expendable franchise. People don't go see it, so we don't really want to invest in the storyline. Let's just uh, put it out there. You know, bullets blazing, bodies dropping. That's what people want to see. That's the first thing. The story was not good. The second thing, the the jokes that they had up in here were not good jokes. They wasn't. They were really stale, stiff, corny. That you sitting in the theater like what? And the special effects in here was really terrible. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, it ain't gotta be like high profile special effects like that, but at the same time, hey, you want the special effects to look decent and look good, and they didn't do that in this film. Just overall, like I said, it was terrible. And you see that the box office, what it's doing at the box office so far, the box office numbers are just terrible. So this movie is not gonna break even. It's not going to do that. So they can mark this one up as a loss. But once again, I'm not too upset about the movie being terrible because we already know going to see these movies is not to expect anything, not to expect like this great, oh my God, it was this, that. No, we already know what to expect going to see these movies. But don't get your hopes up too high. Now, like I said, the last three, they were okay. They were good. They were solid. But this one here, they didn't really take time to develop it. They just didn't do it. So on my review scale of low, medium, high, Expendables 4, I'm gonna give it a low. And I know y'all saying, of course you're gonna give it a low because you said the movie was terrible, so I think it was gonna be high. But this is a movie that I would say, even if it came on streaming, it's not something that you'll be like, I want to see. Because that's how bad it is. That's just how bad it is. So, I mean, don't even waste your time seeing this. Like I said, when it comes on streaming, if you it's just one of those streaming movies that if you basically don't have anything to do and you pretty much seen everything and you just be like, you know what, fuck it, I just want to check out something. It's that, but it's not gonna keep your interest that long before you turn to something else. So that's my review for the Expendables 4. And I want to hear from you guys. You guys let me know your thoughts and comments about the topics we talked about today with the strike and with Expendables 4, because I love to hear from you guys. I love to have these discussions and conversations with you guys and want to hear your thoughts about it. Like, comment, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Also, subscribe to the podcast channels. Like I said, we're on Amazon, we're on Spotify, Deezer, all the podcast channels that you know about. We are on it as well. I want to thank you guys so much and stay tuned.